Firstly, thank you for everyone for attending today. Super excited for this one. Like we said, the purpose of this webinar is to discuss how you can use AI to supercharge your prospecting. So we've got a bunch of people in the room, from SDRs to AEs to founders to revenue leaders. I'll just do a quick introduction and what we're going to cover today. The webinar should last around 35 minutes, so we'll give you everyone back some time. I'll go through the agenda and objectives. So we've defaulted everyone to mute. You can unmute. What we're trying to do is have questions towards the end, but feel free to put anything into the chat box and we can get back to it. We will be showing a recording of the webinar at the end of this, along with the deck as well. So feel free. And then obviously, if you have any questions, connect with us. Quick introduction. I'll introduce Todd. Todd's unbelievable sales leader. He's been at companies like Codility. He's currently at HackerJob. He was one of the early team members at Stack Overflow. He has scaled multiple sales orgs from being an AE, full cycle AE, to leading multiple AE teams as well. HackerJob, for people who don't know, is one of the best AI hiring platforms out there, growing like absolutely crazy. And Todd is leading that EMEA team. So Todd, I don't know if you want to say a few words and say hello.
Yeah, thanks, Gotham. So hi, everyone. My name is Todd Jenkins. Obviously, shameless plug for HackerJob. If your company's hiring software engineers, go tell them to check us out. So we're an end-to-end hiring platform for technical personas. But no, I've been in sales now for over 10 years. Stack Overflow, I saw the scale from Series B to Series E. And we had some phenomenal journey at Codility. And then, yeah, just over here at HackerJob, learning all things sales, and yeah, really incorporating everything from kind of like our SDR motion all the way through to how our sales reps are selling. So hopefully some great topics that come from that today.
Brilliant. Cheers, Todd. And Todd's been a big proponent of using AI in his teams, in the organizations he's worked for, and his sales tool stack as well. So he has a really good on-the-ground insight of the change that's happening right now. Quick introduction to myself, Gotham Rishi, co-founder, CEO of OneShot.ai. We are a fully autonomous sales prospecting platform. Prior to this, I've had 19 years in B2B enterprise sales. So building, scaling sales orgs at companies like Akamai, publicly listed company, CloudBees, all the way to 20 million to 100 million in revenue, now a unicorn, and 1E as well. So everything B2B. I'm a bit older than Todd, so I've seen that sales motion go from getting orders on fax machines to now everything being AI driven. So, right, now let's get into the meat of what we're going to be discussing today. So why Outbound? We'll start with why Outbound. What are the challenges with Outbound? And then what are the 4 must-have effective ways to use AI in Outbound today? And then how to validate that. So let's just get straight into this. And then during this as well, we're going to run through some actual tools out there, some GPT, showing you some of the key prompts people are using today as well. Why Outbound, right? I think everyone who's probably joined this call is doing Outbound in some way, or they're thinking about doing Outbound. They're wanting to test it. Companies look at this in different ways. It's like, one of the best things about Outbound is it's immediate. You can start doing Outbound today, and there's nothing stopping you getting a new meeting today. That's if you're a startup. If you're a scaled company, it's a repeatable channel that's a fairly low-cost channel here as well. You know exactly who you're targeting. And then the other thing here is Outbound is, it's great for a sales career. Todd, I'd love to pick your brain. You've built multiple Outbound teams. You drive that team really early whenever you start a new organization. Why Outbound? Why do you pick Outbound as your kind of key early channel?
Yeah, I think it helps you to become, you're very much in the driving seat to the organizations that you want to speak to. I've sat behind some incredible kind of marketing teams that have built demand generation, where we've had an influx of leads, we've had a good amount of leads to kind of speak with. And it's never to look at that and say we should be doing less of that. We should always be doing more if we can. But what will happen is a lot of those organizations can become a distraction. A lot of those organizations can sit below your ICP. And also you're somewhat getting there at a stage in the journey when that company has probably looked at 2 or 3 of solutions in the market. So you're probably on the checklist. Are you A, B, or C? You can't determine that before you get into the room. You can determine that with outbound. You can get there before your competition, and you very much can be in the position where you're creating your own demand. So those organizations have not looked at the market, looked at all their pain, had that needs discovery before you've got on the phone to them. So you're in that hot seat to say, who are the organizations we want to target? And then how do we want to address their pain? How do you want to really elevate that pain? So when they come and speak to us, they're understanding that we're a business that can maybe solve 2, 3, 4 different areas. They're not laser focused that module A or module B, which you sell, or maybe your main proposition is the only thing we're going to focus on and buy. So I think that ACV directly correlates to a great outbound strategy. That's why we have that incredibly laser focus on making sure that we're all thinking about outbound from a business. That's obviously your AEs, your SDRs. And also, it's not just those departments that have to get involved with this. Something we're doing at HackerJob is the whole organization is focused on looking at outbound. We're all looking for great companies that are out there that are fitting kind of our ICP and companies that are hiring. And then we're feeding them back to our AEs, our SDRs to go and hunt. So yeah, it's incredibly important to be and remain in the hot seat by incorporating outbound into your strategy.
Yeah. I have the point on the ACV side of things. Because you're doing outbound, you're engaging in customers who are potentially could be quite early in their buying process. So they've not spoken to potentially lower cost competitors out there who've already set the price. So if you're selling a 50, 100, 200K deal, but your lower cost 20K, 10K competitor has already got in there, maybe because they have better SEO than you, maybe they've prospected into that account. The customer's already thinking this is a 20K solution. So when you start coming in with a higher ACV, it becomes more challenging. So by prospecting and getting in early, yeah, I've seen that multiple times in my career as well. So outbound, great channel, everyone should be doing it. Where have we got to with outbound? There's 2 bits to this, and this is kind of leading to where we are now with the kind of current mix of AI tools. You can kind of build outbound into 2 parts here. Pre-sequencing, so the pre-outreach, SalesLoft, HubSpot sequencing tools. It was manual follow-ups, setting tasks in your CRM. You're probably sending 1 or 2 emails. People were more phone heavy, and that was prospecting. There was more face-to-face meetings. People were still doing prospecting. They were doing pipeline building. And then obviously around, 2015, 16, these companies like Outreach and SalesLoft just exploded. What also happened was SaaS companies exploded, SDRs exploded, AEs exploded. So suddenly you've gone from 100,000 SDRs to now there's a million SDRs right now. So you've suddenly gone to this huge saturation of prospecting. And then you've got post-prospecting era, which is just fully automated sequences. 5 years ago, you needed 5 or 6 touch points to get a meeting. The recent stats are somewhere close to 15 to 20 touch points. Email open rates have dropped, response rates have dropped, prospects have fully zoned out. People are facing domain damages with how many emails they're sending. And this has just happened. And this is happening now. And obviously with more automation and more AI, the problem's likely to get worse. But we're at a point where we can solve that. I don't know if you have any insight on this, Todd, from your side.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to point out was just a slide, and back to your earlier comment, I guess they retired the fax machine emoji that would have been quite fun for the pre-sequencing era. But no, I think when I got into sales, that terminology of SDR it probably existed in a few organizations, but it wasn't a mass role to get into. And it was like pre-2015, you'd be sat there and you'd be doing everything manually. To every cold email would be sent out from your Gmail. You'd be fact checking it. Of course, there'd be elements of copy and paste and some of that's what we do today. But those early roles was very much like, we want to speak to those people. Let's get cold calling. Let's hammer the phones. I remember, I think it was Data Monitor where I wasn't allowed to send emails. Sounds crazy. I was only allowed to send follow-up emails from my email domain, but I wasn't allowed to send cold emails. You had to get on the phone more often. And then I think what happened is obviously these solutions came out, incredible solutions, sales of outreach, incredible pieces of software that's helped us to really touch the market and experiment a lot more with that role. But again, I think how many emails do you get? Like everyone on this webinar, everyone will get cold emails one way or another. how many of those emails you'll get will be irrelevant and you're just hitting the delete button. How many of you don't open? I think today I must have had 6 emails. I just read the subject line and deleted. It's been a busy day, so some days we open more. But I understand and realize I'm probably going to get hit with a number of these emails per day. So it's a really tough spot, that post-sequencing era as well.
Yeah, completely. And I think everyone's experienced it. And it's how do we get above that? Like we said at the start, Outbound is still a great channel and the results are still there. We are seeing great results from it and a lot of customers are. So a couple of points here on why some of the problems with Outbound. We touched on it here, so we'll keep this super quick. In terms of prospecting problems for customers, is you're currently spamming current prospects. I think they're not speaking for every person doing outbound on there, but I think we've seen a lot. The bar is set pretty low with outbound. The emails we're receiving, like Todd mentioning 6 today, I probably get 10 to 15 emails a day, 20 LinkedIn requests a day. It's all automated. It's not personalized. People are just driving quantity. You're damaging domains. This is happening. It's also expensive. People are throwing teams at this as well. With humans, you're having to experiment. How do you test out a new industry? The results aren't there. People are impatient. Everyone's got meeting targets to hit. The second piece of this is, there's also consequences for the salespeople who are doing this. So problems with outbound for salespeople. I think, Todd, I've had some great chats with you on this as well. People coming in to test for outbound, we've seen it firsthand. I hate to say it, some of the modern SDRs have turned into computers. They're just putting people into cadences and sequences. They're not thinking where, you look at the 1%, the 2% of top performing SDRs, they're not doing that. So I know you've seen this firsthand. You're big on this with your organization as well.
Yeah, massive. And going back to what sales is about solving people's problems. It's easy as that. You solve my problem, I'll probably want to spend more time with you. And I think one of the challenges for the next generation coming into sales is that, in essence, like tools you're using to do your outbound, they're taking over the ability to think. They're taking over the ability for you to understand, like, why do we want to speak to company X over company Y? What problems are company X over company Y trying to solve? How's that persona fitting in that organization? What power level do they have? And I think like what you're seeing is that computer, not a computer of AI, but just a computer taking over kind of what salespeople are doing, devaluing that sales position. And then the new people coming into sales, like from the SDR position, they're taught these really bad habits. Are they great sellers? Are they coming in and going from an SDR to an AE position and making that transition in the quarter? Or are they taking 2 quarters, taking 2 jobs to get to that level? What are they actually doing in your organization to add value? And again, at HackerJob, we've got some incredible SDRs. And those SDRs are people that are picking up the phone and really trying to understand, what is it we're going to solve here? What is it that you're faced with that we as an organization can fix for you? And then those SDRs are the people that will make that transition into a sales career, because they're the people that we're able to put in front of that conversation that starts with discovery, and have that conversation, ask questions that get people thinking, get people talking. And unfortunately, what we're doing in the world at the moment in sales is we're hiring a hell of a lot of people out of university, second careers, transition into careers, and we're saying, okay, here's your ICP, here's your set of accounts. Now go make some stuff happen. But what is that go make things happen? And I've seen underperforming SDR teams where the SDRs are just sitting there with their sales off that outreach, any of those kind of tools, and they're putting people into cadences, looking at some data, trying to shift it, and they're hiding from the phone. They're not picking those phones up. So I think that there's got to be that fundamental shift, and us as sales leaders, I think it comes and starts with us really first. And Gotham, we've had that conversation. I feel really responsible to ensure that the people around me get that opportunity to become salespeople, to launch their career, or if not, really become SDR leaders that understand there's so many multiple methods to get in touch with that persona. But I think the hardest thing, and back to you, Gotham, what you think on this side, but you're being hamstrung by wanting to do that because you need to create the demand. You need to be sending out those emails. You need that ability to go, okay, like we've got, how many accounts out there to go and target in today's world, where the company life cycle is. We need those SDRs to also be tapping those companies consistently. So I think it's a really interesting debate we're faced with.
Yeah. And I think I saw one of the participants was actually one of my first bosses who's just joined as well, Brant, from the US as well. And this was really being back in 2005. And I think, the advantage that we had then without these sequencing tools was I was able to go on sales meetings. We traveled on the road. I was sitting on the back of sales calls. I was able to listen to customer problems firsthand versus just kind of sat in the corner by myself, just putting people in cadences. What you learn in a customer meeting is 10 times more valuable than what you'll get sending a cadence. So you're understanding from a customer perspective what their issues are, what their challenges are. So, it's all about high value activity, high value work. Instead of just hitting activity numbers, think about what research you're doing, what personalization, customer problems, persona problems. So it's super important, especially if you're at the early stage of your career, to be doing that. Now we're kind of getting on to why AI. We're at a huge turning point. Just think about what's happened in the last 3 years, 3.5, 4 years. COVID has happened, right? So we've had this huge shift to remote working, and everyone was like, this is the biggest change that's ever happened to the way we work. And it was huge. It was to our entire lives. And the concept of, if anyone can work remotely, anyone can do your job. So everyone's jobs immediately became up at risk, because actually, why do we need to pay high employee costs in places like the US, the UK, etc., when we can get people to do that work at skilled level in other countries? And that did happen, and companies downsized because of it as well, and that's what happened. That was just from COVID. Now we're also facing, on top of that, this AI revolution, and it is a huge change. There's a lot of talk right now is, will AI replace my job? Will AI? There's always been technology that's going to automate and make your life easier. AI will not replace you, but obviously the people using AI and the early proponents of those people using it you will start seeing the difference between those two things. Todd, I know we've discussed that. I don't know, those 2 points have just been huge, right, over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, everyone knows the explosion of ChatGPT. And I think, as we get through this webinar, we're going to talk through kind of how to incorporate AI into your outbound. But in essence, it's extremely true that these tools need to be governed by something. There needs to be some sort of input, some human awareness of, what tools are we going to be selecting? If you're a sales leader right now, be really looking out there at your toolkit and saying, there's a number of initiatives that are going to be arise in the next 6 months to 3 years. What's the right tools to complement your business and the skill sets you currently have? And I think that as we go through this, you're going to see a few kind of tactics that we've incorporated, we're using, and I've used in the past that have had some incredible success for us as well.
Yeah. So now's the time to incorporate. We've discussed this, right? Outbound is still a phenomenal channel. It will give you almost immediate results. You can affect your in-quarter performance, revenues, pipelines. Underperforming AEs can become performing AEs. Startups can deliver, one shot is we're a 2-year-old company. 90% of our revenue is from outbound, right? And we've gone through multiple rounds of funding all through outbound, right? It's a real channel that can have real business impact. Incorporating AI into that is the biggest thing that's happened since the internet. I think the way people are using it will revolutionize the way we're working. I think the mindset has to be, it's a solution for the user. It's something that's going to make your life easier. It's going to increase results. It's not something that's going to replace you. The internet did not replace you. It made your life easier. This is the same way of what AI, look to your kind of toolbox of AI tools, master them, become relevant with them. So coming on to this now, I'm going to give some kind of practical advice on, we work with a lot of leading companies and a lot of leading AEs and SDRs on how to use AI effectively to prospect. There's probably 4 main areas to this. And this applies for just in general prospecting. And then what we'll cover is how you can use AI on top of this. The obvious one, and probably what most people see on platforms like LinkedIn, is how to use ChatGPT for messaging and how you can create these super cool emails. Yes, that is correct, but it all depends on the prompts. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, create me this great email and it will spit it out. There's multiple iterations to it, and we're going to show you, I'll show you in a second how to do that. Before we even get to messaging, you have to have the right ICP, right? If you don't have the right ICP, and there's multiple ways of getting that ICP, which we'll also touch. It's not necessarily about industry or size. It's going deeper. What tech stack are they using? How much are they growing? What positions are they currently hiring for? The other key area here that we see a lot of is this is coming up more, and we touched on this, is as more people are prospecting, domains are getting damaged. I think anyone who's been prospecting for several years now will see a massive drop in open rates in the last 6 months to 9 months. I think there's just been a huge drop off. We'll cover why that's happening and what you can do to that. And obviously data. I can sit here today and say, I've created the best email in the world. I've nailed my ICP. I know exactly what I'm doing. But if I get a 0% response rate, I'm like massively wrong. So understanding your data is the key bit here. So I don't know, Todd, before I jump into that, I know you've ICP messaging, healthy domains, you've kind of experienced it, lived it. I don't know if there's anything that's close to your heart here.
Yeah, I think so one of the roles I did, second to last, was I kind of brought a US company into the UK market, European market. And essentially, like, we didn't have all the budgets. We didn't have and this is the first time I started thinking how AI can help me. I didn't have the ability to go and hire myself 10 SDRs, 5 AEs, go figure out a bunch of stuff. And we didn't know product market fit was available for us. We didn't know our ICP at that point in time. We had a steer from the US, but if you're steering just from kind of one market into another, you can make mistakes. So one thing that I did was we started using AI to make these decisions for us, speed us up, speed up the rate of execution. And what we were able to do was really pinpoint who our ICP was. We're able to, and again, I think domains are a really key thing here. We didn't really have, much messages going out, but it was always that, I wanted to ensure that we didn't flood the market. We didn't just hit this message where when we put out true outbound motion with our AEs going out, connecting with various different stakeholders in the market, we were going to get shut down. We were going to get people say, hey, we received an email from you. You're just not relevant for us. So we had to be incredibly careful whilst doing it. And essentially what AI allowed us to do was it allowed us to feel like we were a team of 20 people, but really we were just a team of 2 or 3 on a really strict budget. So we're probably on that budget of 2.5, it's the essence of creating a new market. But AI allowed us to do that, allowed us to kind of creep into that. The personalized messaging is really key. Sometimes when you've got so many things to do, you'll drop your personalization. Going that one step further on someone's LinkedIn page or doing some more research on them, it's going to take 2 or 3 out, if you're doing that over multiple contacts, 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours a day of your time doing that right. So AI allowed us to incorporate that into our messaging. So when we were getting the results, people were saying, this looks really good. Let's have that conversation. But we'd put zero, I don't want to say effort there, Gotham, but we put zero work input into that to get those results. So it was really key on that journey.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the roles, the boring manual tasks that no one likes to do, but are kind of a necessary evil, that's what you can use AI to do. You can actually remove the really boring, rubbish parts of your job that you don't enjoy, and you can focus on actually providing value to customers. And I think from my experience, I've built and scaled teams for the last 10 years, but over the last few years, building one shop, I went back into an SDR role. And this is before we had the tech even here. I was continuing to manually prospect. I was adding people to sequences. I was researching, I was cold calling. And I haven't done this in 10 years. And it's exhausting. It's really tiring doing that every single day for 8-9 hours every single day. And you work 40-50 hours in the week and you get no meetings. And then you suddenly start looking at okay, that's incredibly demotivating. And then, you can go, 2-3 weeks without a meeting. And then you start looking, how can I optimize my time? How can I, make sure I am booking meetings every week? How can I make sure I'm not burning out because I'm just doing really boring manual work all the time as well? So AI is really there to just make you more efficient. So now we're going to get into like how to use AI. We'll start with messaging, and I'm going to go into 3 parts here: messaging, ICP, and domain warming, like domain health as well. So those are 3 things. I lied, actually 4 parts, and then results on top of that, how to validate results. So personalization at scale, everyone's talked about it. Everyone talks about personalization at scale. Super simple, right? You can use AI to create it. If you're using a sequencing solution, you can simple messaging framework to follow, right? Keep all your emails under 100 words. Stick to an good email structure. There's loads out there. This one we see works really well. Under 100 words, personalize the subject line and the intro line. What we say is the intro line is like something that gets their attention. I'll show you how we do that in a second. Then there's the pain point. What is the pain point your persona is facing? And the pitch, right? What's the pitch of your company, and what's the proof point? How have you solved this pain point that I'm facing with another customer? And so now let me show you how we actually do this. And I'm actually stupid enough to actually about to demo like ChatGPT with some real data on the fly. So if this goes horribly wrong, I'm going to blame someone else that's not me. So this is quite simply how to use ChatGPT. I'm just giving you one example. There's tons of stuff out there. So all I would do here is like, let's assume I was selling to Todd. I have no idea what Todd does, what he's doing, what his job role is, but I know he's on my target list. So I can just go in. Obviously, if you've got ChatGPT 4, use that. And I think I've got my prompts here. Right. Tell me what. So I can go in here. I can literally just type in, what does package job do? And this will quickly tell me, and I'll run through this in like 2-3 minutes, and it will quickly tell me, so, okay, cool. I don't want to read the Hacker Job website. I can't be bothered to understand what it does. So now I'm going to get ChatGPT to roughly work out what it does. Whilst it's continuing to summarize that, the next point, okay, now like that's being typed out. I know I'm selling to Todd. So I'm like, Todd's a VP of sales. Okay. So what challenges? Now I want to get into the persona-based challenges. What challenges would a VP of sales at job have? And so what it will do is it's now going to tell me specific pain points. And Todd, you can tell us if this is like quite accurate for your position as well. But straight away, like it goes into the detail. So within 30 seconds, I already understand what Hacker Job do, what the challenges of my persona are. Is this accurate so far, Todd?
Yeah, the description was better than mine. So at the start of the call, we've got no competition to anyone that's researching Hacker Job right now. But of course, like this is incredibly targeted. And I think the one thing we want to say here, Gotham, is that to us as sales leaders, we're looking at this, reading this, going, of course, like we have these issues. But how many times your SDRs research personas they have no idea about? And I think that's a really key kind of message to put in here. And I'm reading this as it's going, and it comes back to like the ICP, like
maybe I can solve Todd's issues. They're a high growth Series A, B company. He will have different challenges to a CRO, a publicly listed company. So it's understanding, what are those challenges? So I can get into this. Now I've got that. And now I can say, okay, and this is all leading to an email, right? So where I'm going to with this is an email. So I think the next section is, okay, tell me, now I kind of know, okay, what are Todd's problems? What a Hacker Job do? Tell me some of the VP of sales KPIs. And now where I'm going to with this is I'm leading to an email. And so what I'm doing is I'm basically training GPT to say, actually, I want to know specifically what the company does. I want to know some of the pain points that they're facing. And then I want to know some of the KPIs. And this is all going to lead to where I pitch to with my cold email. You only have to do this once or twice. I'm not expecting anyone to do this for every single email. I'm just going to kind of run through this in a few minutes. And I'll show you how you can use this at scale in a second as well. I've got some more personalization I can show. So now I've kind of got to the point where it's now written out some of the specific KPIs. And yeah, I know firsthand, Todd, obviously revenue growth, increasing the deal size is this depressing for you to read that these are all your things you have to do?
So what makes me smile is you know, I didn't know this was going to play out today, but you know, I mean, engaging a vendor around like sales training, right? It's something we're always looking into, and two of our key kind of metrics is always that sales cycle and also that deal size, right? It's huge for us, and it's writing these out as key points. So if I'm getting an email that's focusing on those two things right now, I'm paying attention to this, right? I'm probably going to be opening this or reading this.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly highly targeting.
Yeah, and it's so cool. It's basically looking at, it knows the size of company, it knows the growth, it knows the specific KPIs. Now, okay, I want to now pitch my products, right? I kind of know everything about Todd. I know everything, all of his challenges. I know his entire life story. Now I need to pitch him on one shot. For anyone who knows, ChatGPT goes up until 2021. Right, so it doesn't have much data. So One Shot is a newish company. We're a couple of years old, so it doesn't have a huge amount of data on us. So what you would do here is you can actually teach, I can show you how this works. I can actually teach GPT to learn about my company. So I can say, can I teach you about a company? And it will give its general, I'm an AI solution, blah, 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 but feed me some information. And this is where you can feed in real-time information. This also works for if you're prospecting a company that's quite new. So Hacker Jobs, a few years, there's some good data on them. But if you're prospecting a company that hasn't, I'm going to show you a really good tool here, and we'll share all these links after. It's like to the web, and it can actually, you can put in a website, and it will actually convert all of that into text for me. And so what will happen is I can do this. It will give me the text for what One Shot is. I can copy all text. And I can go back to GPT and I can say, there we go. And now what it will do is it will summarize, and it's now learned what One Shot does. So now it's giving a really good summary of what One Shot does. And now I'm kind of at the point, and this is the entire step that I've just talked through. Tell me about my company, tell me what the problems are. And now I'm teaching about One Shot. Now I'm going to get it to write a prospecting mail based on my persona, the company, the problem, everything they do. So super simple so far. Now I can say, and this is where you can get super flexible. So I write a prospecting mail to the VP of sales at Hacker Job and explain the value prop for One Shot. Keep the mail under 125 words, include spacing, focus on their pain points. And now it will automatically create with the subject line that email for me. Yeah, and actually what you'll find with this is it will come up with different messages, but you can keep iterating these messages. So whatever you get, you can start improving. So I can actually go back to this and say, actually, I don't like that message. I want to iterate that message again. So I can say, can you write this again and bullet point out the pain points and value prop. And what this will do is it will just clean the format up and it will focus this in a nicer way. So you can actually run this as many times as you want and keep iterating. And this will keep coming up with different messages. And again, like, assume I know nothing. I know nothing about this position. I know nothing about their product. It's already coming up with really good emails. You can just keep doing this and keep iterating. Like I said, that's just persona-based messaging. I showed you that in like 3-4 minutes. If you're using a sequencing solution like Outreach or SalesLoft, set email 1 to manual and you can do it. Now I'm going to show you a few more. Within the deck that I'll share, we've got some of these prompts for you, so you can all test these and use these out. The next thing is just message personalization. So now let's just say I've gone into a profile. I want to create a message. So this is, this bit. This is a prompt for personalization. So now let's say I want to personalize a message. Let's just pick, I'll show you on here. Let's just go to my profile. And you've got a couple of ways of doing this. You can actually save a LinkedIn profile and save it to a PDF. And if you do that, you can copy and paste that PDF and put it into GPT. I'm going to do even a shorter version of that. I'm just going to basically just copy and paste. So I'm just going to copy and paste this section there. Maybe just copy there. And then actually I can go into GPT and I'll show you, this is a really good way of doing this. I think I've just pasted it. Ah, here we go. So I'm actually going to put this in and say, can you write me that? And they'll say, here is the profile. And this is just to come up with a one-liner. So all I've done, and everyone will have a copy of this deck, you'll just copy in that prompt. You can go to anyone's profile. You can copy it like I've done there. You can save the resume to a PDF and copy and paste it. I'm just going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back in, paste it. And what it will do is it will just come up with a one-liner. And you can keep doing this and you can keep feeding it in. I can go into Todd's profile and these just one-liners you can just start putting into your prospecting mails quite easily. So we've added a few more. I won't go into all of them now, but we've added a ton more prompts here. This is talking about a prompt to get your persona's pain points by industry, by persona. And you can just keep building these out as well and keep putting these in. It's super important, really easy to do. This is one for subject lines as well. So, a quick tip on subject lines, keep your subject lines under 3 words, 4 words at maximum. Make it look like an internal email. Don't come up with the kind of cheesy sales pitches, they get deleted straight away. Cool. ICP. So, we've got about 5-6 minutes left to go. So we're going to kind of pack in a few points here. So ICP, how do you get your right ICP? And this is a big point here. Go beyond just job title and industries. Go after industries you've never focused on, verticals you've never focused on. And I'll show you a few tips and tricks here. But Todd, I know I had a really good chat with you about this before. How you've been, you've been an AE, you've been the top performing AE. And I think one of the things that you did really well was you went against what was being told within the organization. You went after industries and sub-industries that people weren't going after. Do you want to talk about ICP specifically for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, we're all, and I think we've got a mixture of kind of AEs and sales leaders here as well. We waste an incredible amount of time going after people, that are just not relevant for you. But also you are sometimes like missing the gold that exists that no one's seen before. So there's like 2 areas. Is like you have this like when you create a business, you have this area of people that are just never going to buy your products. The number of A's that will go after that is incredible, right? And they'll end up failing. Then you have those edge cases, and those edge cases are really interesting to kind of figure out. And it's those things that no one's ever really thought about before. I think one of the things we spoke about was this area of like this public pool of accounts. What lives in that existence? How many accounts people, AEs look at, and they've just never really tapped up. They've never really seen the edge case there. And they're going after the tried and tested, like these are the companies we sell to, or you've got people that go after the companies that you can never sell to, right? And they're always kind of like going down there. But these edge cases like are really interesting to me. It's like, who are these businesses that we should be focused on, who we should be having a conversation with that don't pop out to us straight away? Is there a vertical that we can sell into our product that no one's looked at because they've never really thought this could exist? And I love this feeling in sales sometimes where sales teams have this mantra where it's like, oh, you'll never sell to them, or there's nothing in that public pool of accounts, or there's no opportunity over here. And it takes one person to kind of come in from the organization, outside the organization, and say, I'm going to try this. And then they end up opening. And I think, Gotham, you got a great kind of like something in your career where I think you got hired, didn't you, for creating kind of an edge case into another company that said, wow, we just need to do that, and went and found your team. But in essence, like, how are you doing this with the current constraints you have in business? Like 2023 is going to be really tough for a lot of organizations. Do your team have time to experiment in those places, right? Are people trying to break status quo right now? Probably not. So one thing I kind of really focused on in my career was how many different use cases could I find within the product that I was selling, and how quickly could I go after those, quicker than everyone else, right? Any other AE in my team. And in essence, that's kind of before technology. So it's going to be very interesting to see how AI can help us get there without the need of finding those individuals that want to go find that gold or have the time to go find it in time constraint.
Yeah, and it's exactly, it's going after that TAM. It's, you know, going after the non-financial services, non-software companies. There's a ton of other companies out there. Actually, one thing OneShot's seen, we've seen a ton of success in the, if you said one of our most successful ICPs are super small companies, you know, potentially 1 to 2 employees. We never even thought of going after those, but those are turning into a really good part of our business. So again, it's trying to focus in areas and products that you haven't seen before. Here's an ICP checklist. We're going to share this with everyone. It's on the deck. You've got your standard stuff, right? Okay, really get your ICP. Your ICP, try and keep it to like even like 500 companies, 1,000 companies. You've got your profile, what departments, what the job titles are. Like, these are really good. Like, I know, yeah, Todd, you work closely with, yeah, are they hiring a certain amount of people? Like, it's like for OneShot, are they hiring a certain amount of salespeople? Like, those are really good signals. They've all got common pain points. So it's, you're going in slightly deeper. You know the pain point. I know the pain point for Todd is probably different in a pain point for CRO for publicly listed company, like I mentioned. So you've got alternate solutions. It's all the same if you have the same ICP. You know the exact problem. So really have a look at this. Build your ICP checklist around this, and we'll be sharing that as well. So another really important, we've got like 3 slides left to go. This is huge, and we speak to a lot of people about this all the time. Open rates are just dying at the moment for a lot of people. And again, coming back to the sequencing lessons, sequencing providers are still telling you to send tons of emails. This is probably some of the worst advice. I think it's currently out there at the moment. You shouldn't be sending more than 3 emails in a sequence. We've seen the data, like the data from like 4 years ago is not relevant, where, oh, you will get a response after email 6. What's happening now is we've basically just annoyed all our prospects where they're now clicking report as spam. So by the time you've put them into a 6, 7, 8 email stage sequence, you're getting reported as spam more often. What's that doing is that's going back to the mail servers and saying this person is spamming people. They are a known spammer. You will end up in junk mail folders. Email warming. This is something that a lot of people on separate domains try and prospect off your main domain. If you are a growing company, the last thing you want to do is just damage your corporate domain. We hear stories every day of founders, CEOs of like Series C companies who cannot inform their investors. They're like, customers are not getting emails. And this is because the team have just smashed their domain for the last few years. So get a separate domain, warm up those accounts, and there's a ton of things out there that can help you with that. The mail servers are looking if you're personalizing. If you're sending the same body of text every single email, they are picking up that spam. You will go to junk as well. So they're looking for like things like that. So, you know, the safe number of emails we see that you can send per day is 30. We've experimented, we've seen it, we've tested it. If you start going above that, you will end up in spam. They've got so hot on this in the last 6 months, I just cannot explain. So these are some really good tips and practices. We have a free service as well. So we can actually check your mailbox, we can check the health. So if you just send it to check my email at oneshot.ai, we can actually send you back a free report to tell you. But these are separate things that you should definitely keep an eye on. And Todd, I know you've seen some challenges at companies, previous companies where they've had this issue, right?
Honestly, I was going to say this, like domain health was not part of my vocabulary before I met Gotham. Like, genuinely wasn't part. I never thought about it. And it's just true. Your domain health will be suffering. And I think like it sounds controversial what Gotham said in a couple of kind of sentences there, but it's just not. Like it's controversial to probably go the other way. But we're embedding that. We feel that that's a strategy of the future. We think that that's the things we need to be doing. It's not. And listen, my entire prospecting career, and you can check me on LinkedIn, see the things that I've done. I don't need to say now. It was always capped to 3 emails, always capped to 3 emails. I used to consistently tell people that you need to be doing a bit 3 emails and then changing tact and then going somewhere else, right? And I think what we're seeing now is I see SDRs with sequences that are 18, 20, 25 steps. I'm thinking, you're bugging the hell out of people, let alone kind of the impact to your domain health here. So I think like this advice is really, really top. And the free email, like the free check, use OneShot to do that. Like check your email. If you're an AE, if you're starting your own business, if you're a sales leader today, because I guarantee that before I met Gotham, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't thinking that. And fundamentally, before you go blame the team for bad prospecting, it could be something like the domain health that's holding everyone back. So it's important advice to kind of take it, but some of these fundamentals, 30 per day, three email sequences, fully subscribe to that.
Yeah, I'm super opinionated. Just do it. Just change it. If anyone's doing it, just go to this. So final point here. I think, final point, right? Analyze, track everything you're doing. So how do you check if things are working? How do we do this? So, like we personally, you should be checking, okay, obviously everyone has this within sequencing tools. What's your response rate? What's your open rates? But you can go deeper, right? You should be looking at break this down by industry. What are my open rates? What are my response rates by industry? What are they by size of company? So we can see, for example, okay, I'm getting a really good response rate from software companies to 11 to 50 people. Now I want to put in persona. So now I can see at VP level, I'm getting my best responses. Where do I potentially suck? Like VP level in artificial intelligence, software CEOs, I'm not getting great responses. So I just know maybe it's a messaging issue. But again, make sure you're tracking your data, make sure you're seeing what your results are, and experiment, go into new industries, new personas. Just by changing a persona and changing the messaging, you'll just unlock a ton of value there. So I think we're finishing up, and I think there's a few questions here which we'll touch on. Oh, my screen, 1 second. It's a new monitor. I think it's going a bit green on me. Here we go. So just finishing up on the last slide. So yeah, look, appreciate just finishing up here and we'll go to some questions. Look, I think just putting it politely, outbound as we know it at this point is broken, right? The system of more and spam and non-personalized message, that is not working. You will only damage, your career, your domain, everything, and your pipeline. AI has changed the game. You can now focus on quality without spending hours and hours researching. Embrace it, look for tech. We're happy to help out. There's tons of tools out there. There's some great content being shared on LinkedIn on tips and tricks. There's a lot, there's probably too much, so it can be quite confusing. But yeah, thank you. We'll touch on some questions in a second, but yeah, obviously feel